Hey everyone. Hi guys. Let me know if the audio is fine and if you can see me. I'm assuming it's okay. On my end it looks good. Thanks for the super chat, Joe. Alright, hope everyone's well. Okay, sounds like my audio's okay. And you guys can see me. Yeah, it just started raining here in Melbourne, which is annoying because I wanted to mow the lawn after this live stream. Guess that's not happening. Joe, thanks for the super chat. His question is, I'm a 51-year-old seasoned vet, if you can name it. I've had it happen to me, threw it in the towel back in 07 and never looked back. Threw what in? Let me know specifically what you mean, Joe. Remember guys, if you want to ask a question, make sure you highlight them, make them stand out with emojis or super chat or whichever way you feel like. But just make sure they stand out in the live stream. Otherwise, it's hard for me as the stream's going and as people start filing in. We've already got 109 people on at the moment, 114. Most days now we get around 200 to 300 people. So yeah, hope everyone is good. It's Sunday here, the 22nd. I'm in from the future. All right. I've got a few comments, namely from the last couple of videos. Some notable ones. You guys left some really good comments, but just some really notable ones from the last two, which were what women want in terms of when you look at their memes and their vision boards, the things that they the advertising that appeals to them, the things they write down, the visions and the things they want, the imagery they want, and also the most recent video, should you feel grateful for SEX? Bradley asks about the restrictions here in Melbourne. I think aside from wearing masks, everything's pretty much back to normal. And the rumor has it that today they'll announce that that'll go, you know, fingers crossed. Nice to see a whole bunch of you drop in. All right. So go for the first comment, which was from the Don of M Tower. And this was in regard to, I think, what do women want in terms of when you look at their memes and their vision boards. He said, I've been to seminars when I was younger where they ask you to do a vision board, and I saw both men and women doing the same style of heavy image board. The more conclusive way of seeing things, the more conclusive way of what's going on for women is women in this way is asking them to tell you what they want out of life and a partner. Their language gives it away 90% of times. I've done this to get answers which have no reference to the character of a man. And when I pointed out that they answered in that way and give them examples of genuine virtues, they backtrack and say, oh yeah, of course, all that stuff too. Oh, how convenient. Yeah, I'll put what I dream about, what's important to me. You know, yachts, planes, cars, trips, expensive dinners, champagne. Oh yeah, also a nice person too. Yeah, I mean that's a given, isn't it? Mm. Steve says, "Hi, human. What do you think of other YouTubers such as Sandman?" I don't have a problem with any of them really. Everyone does their own thing. Everyone does different stuff. I remember back when I first started, there was less people. There was more cooperation between people. There was more people that didn't really have infighting or anything like that. But I don't really. It doesn't bother me what other guys do. Even I've mentioned a few of the guys that aren't really my taste. I don't respect much of the way they do things or how they treat their subs or stuff like that. I mean, that's them, but I don't really hate them or anything like that. I'm the kind of person, unless you direct it at me, I don't get offended. You do you. Doesn't bother me. I just don't respect people that treat especially their subs or other people badly, where they feel better about themselves because they're treating others badly. But I don't have a problem with other creators. If anything, I wish other creators would get along better than they do. Krista, question: do you think love exists, or do we all just use each other to get what we lack? I think more the latter. Human beings like to use each other, even if they're not conscious about it. Hey, Mountain MGTOW. Look, love's one of these amorphous concepts. It means something slightly different to different individuals. But at base as well, it means something very different between men and women. So, for instance, the gatekeeper for love for women, for what I can see, is protection, provision. If he has status or power, that's kind of the gatekeeper. And then a woman will like all the other stuff, like, oh, he's a great guy and he's good around kids and he does this for me, he does that for me. But and love's very different for a man as well. Again, the quote, the term I coined, which for me, love for man is a tree, a love for a woman is a Christmas tree. Joe, thank you for the super chat. His question or elaboration on what he said before was, back in 91, I was nearly shot and killed, coming to the aid of my 5 years long girlfriend only to catch her cheating red-handed 6 months later. I have tons more stories like that. Oof. Yeah, those are real extreme sort of stories. I mean, I don't want to pull out, not every woman's like that, but all women have female nature, right? It all depends on the particular woman, how much she succumbs to the worst parts of it, how much she uses the better parts of it. And similarly with guys, like, we've got good and bad traits too. But yeah, that's a no-brainer, man. Commiseration. Sorry about that. You went overseas, fought for your country. You almost lost your life protecting your girlfriend, and then she cheats on you. That's just one of the worst case scenario stories. That's on the end of, these stories that guys share around. Oh, this happened to this guy, and I'm not saying it's not true. Believe you. But they're the extreme cases, and they definitely show you that, yeah, you definitely should go your own way away from that. Mountain MGTOW says, we are selfish by design, just some are more selfish than others. Yeah. How you've been raised as well, that's a massive factor. People don't really factor too much into that. You got your DNA, you know what your hardware is, but the nurture side, what you were given or weren't given, and how you were and weren't given things, given your hardwiring and your DNA, your base personality, if you will, how you were raised. People think that, like, oh no, that I was a kid, I knew nothing, and I kind of became conscious of myself and who I am, and when I say yes and no when I'm older. So when I was a kid, that really doesn't matter. That's just the jumble of a blurred mess of memories. No, there's a lot of subconscious stuff in that, and the way you can tell is as you're growing up around friends and so forth. When you're around people, you'll notice other people, your friends, and that they have an easier time in certain situations, and you find it frustrating. The easy example is when you go out and you socialize with friends, or when you're trying to get a partner, you'll notice some guys or girls just find it really easy, and you're really scared, you're nervous. It's the most nerve-wracking thing ever, and you think, why do I feel like this? Or you notice some people, they're not as addicted to chasing love and relationships and intimacy and stuff. They're pretty easygoing and they're more relaxed about life, whereas you're more nervous about it. There's more of an addiction to you. It's like, and it frustrates you. Why is that? Usually it's a big part of it is your upbringing. Not that you should use it as an excuse, but for most people it is. Grey Walker says, love is that condition which exists when someone else's happiness is essential to your own. It's a quote by Robert A. Heinlein. Yeah. When you actually naturally care about someone else's happiness, basically because it feels right and it's reciprocated. Most people have a frustrated version of love where the other person's never satisfied and nothing fits, you can't talk, your lifestyles and your values don't match. And it's almost like trying to find love at a job with robots. You know, I'll just keep acting like a boyfriend and hopefully she can act like a girlfriend and we'll get along. JB, hey human, do you think a woman exists that can share moral and ethical depth and physical emotional support as well as being attracted to them? Yeah, sure, but again, you stack on each one of those things. Each one of those things is a challenging thing in and of itself, and then when you try and get the trifecta all in one, I mean, how many people win the lottery? But there are, again, when people say, oh, there are good people out there are. But it's, what's the majority? How much time do you have to spend? There are guys that all they do is spend time, guys and girls, all they do is spend time chasing the other. Add on top of that, they don't look at their own character, whether they're fair, so that basically makes it impossible because they're completely selfish at the expense of other people. So it's almost impossible to find someone good anyway, given the people that are out there. And the people that are out there, it's basically a whole bunch of selfish take people looking for others to give. It's a whole bunch of one-way streets trying to get to each other, but in their minds, they want the Hollywood romance of a two-way back and forth, sunshine, never fighting. Every day is, strawberries and chocolate. But the reality is, it's kind of a bunch of scared children, selfish, scared, rich, spoilt brats that never want to admit that they're a majority of the problem, or they're a factor in bad stuff that might be happening between people. So there's a lot of factors that hamstring people. The best thing you can do, I think, is, it's all my fault from now on, as much as you can, fairly. And when you interact with people, you try and as much as possible, when you're unsure, say there's a conflict, you feel sort of fear or unease, and you're not quite sure what's going on, but this is uncomfortable. As much as you can, try and step back from a third-person perspective and be the observer and go, hang on, is this fair? From an objective observer standpoint, did I say something that objectively I could have said differently? For example, try and be as fair as you can. Someone mentioned the golden rule. That's a good way too. Are you treating people the way you want to be treated? Simplifying things, I've found, is the best way, rather than putting on your shoulder a whole bunch of, even if it's correct, complex ideas, complex red pill, philosophical, stoic, ethical, and moral ideas. Because when you're in front of someone, you can't pluck out that Bible of information. The best thing to calibrate yourself towards is, I found, simple stuff. That's why we love really short aphorisms. So yeah, golden rule. Golden rule. Golden rule. Is this fair? Are they treating me the way I'd like to be treated? Am I treating people well? Are they treating me well? Am I treating them well and I'm never getting anything back objectively, not selfishly? Don't say like I'm the best and people aren't treating me like a god. Honestly, if you fool yourself, you're going to get the result of that kind of garbage. If you think you're great and the world and everyone else just owes you. Quasimandias, how are you, my friend? He says, maybe a question. If we are seeking fulfillment of lack, as in we're always chasing what we don't want, I think, how much of that lack is real emptiness, or rather expectations created by culture generally at the loss of real lack? Yeah, I said this before. I think we don't get our hearts broken. I think we get our expectations broken. And I think that plays into this. Yeah, we expect a lot, but there's some things. Again, there are some things you can argue that is a rational form of expectation. So if you're getting along with someone, you may expect that pattern to continue because it feels good. And then when that pattern's disrupted, it's all well and good to be philosophical and say, well, the universe throws change at you. It's not always rainbows and sunshine. And I should be just as calm about someone laughing, smiling, and I'm having a great time. Then all of a sudden they turn around and smash a glass on my face. And I'm supposed to think, well, that's just the way the universe goes. I just feel a loss of tranquility. These, you can argue, are coping mechanisms, and they probably are, for you not to kind of spurg out in the same way they do. But it's a good question. Maybe some of you guys can sort of have your own thoughts about that too, but I just gave you mine. We do seek, whether it's fulfillment, contentment. I think happiness is kind of elusive, but fulfillment and contentment, I think they're more something proximal that you can maybe grab in, especially if you form routines and try and rein in the way you think about things. But yeah, a lot of our emptiness and frustration comes from our expectations, our unfulfilled expectations, and also our unrealistic ones. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with realistic expectations. You know, the sun's going to rise. I'm having a good conversation with someone, then all of a sudden they slap me in the face. It's kind of like, it's hard to stay even keel with that. But that's a good point. Are we empty or down or unhappy? Or did we just have unrealistic expectations? Generally at the loss of real lack. Yeah, real lack, like, you know, because society up until now, it's been pretty coddled and safe. So now what we feel hurt by is we don't have the latest iPhone. That's not real loss. And so we're feeling unhappy by the dumbest things. I mean, the cliches, you ask a third world person who has nothing but shelter, and, you know, you see their children smiling all the time because they don't have much to lose. Whereas now you see, I've seen those videos on YouTube, those memes of like rich girls, their father buys them like a red Ferrari for their birthday, and they start crying, and on camera they're going, "I wanted a white one." Yeah, is it real lack? Brino says, have you ever considered the notion of couple as a social construct? Not really. If we don't couple, we're not here. You know, our species needs to reproduce. So if you want to think of it, if we're a couple for a short period of time, just enough for us to reproduce and leave, or we're a couple for our whole lives. But I think people as couples fare better on the long term, because if our species wants to reproduce and the healthiest kids are raised by parents being together, then it stands to reason that couples should be something more than a glib dismissal of, you know, a social construct. Because if you just kind of hit it and leave, fine, nature's happy, but your kid's going to be garbage in terms of contributing members to society, mentally stable people who have a happy life in and of themselves if you care about your kids, but also how they interact with society and what they contribute, or more likely what they don't. Another comment from a couple of videos again about women's memes and their vision boards. JJ says, actual achievement takes competence, perseverance, and hard work. This is the secret. Yeah, they don't actually, that's the secret that they don't actually mention. Competence, merit, the effort you put in. David said, Joe is not an extreme case. Joe mentioned about how he was a veteran. He saved his girlfriend from being killed, and then she ended up cheating on him shortly afterwards. That's and David says Joe is not an extreme case. Women think Joe deserve it. They don't look back. In that sense, a lot of women, yes. I'm saying his particular scenario sounds like an awful movie, and they do happen, those situations. Feel bad for Joe, sorry man. But yeah, again, women's nature, it depends on the individual woman, how much she reaches for the worst aspects of her, and how gleeful and joyful she uses them, and she doesn't care about others, her lack of empathy and sympathy. Those are some things a lot of guys really don't care about. You know, in the same way, it amazes me that guys who have really been hurt really don't care much about this stuff. They don't care about developing their own moral philosophy by which they can sort of interact with other people, particularly women if you choose to still interact with them and get into relationships. they don't care about it. It's like, that's that philosophical mumbo jumbo. That's theatrical. That's kind of human getting on stage and, you know, doing Shakespeare. That's not real life. But then it's a way of seeing things. That's the healthy aspect of it. And it's a way of seeing the language of the dynamic between people. And these cases, they do happen. But what this stuff gives you, for me anyway, is that you can see this earlier before you put a ring on it, before you have kids with these kind of women. You can see it when you go to restaurants, how she treats strangers and waiters. If she has, her reflex is to just be kind, to be a nice person, which is one of the really big pillars that men appreciate in a woman, just a really kind person. You got the superficial stuff at the surface that both men and women, you know, women like the protection, provision, money, finances, status, power, blah, 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 blah. They're the gatekeepers for women to sort of, yeah, I'll see about loving the person now after I've been sold on all these things as the gatekeeper. And then men's gatekeeper is, she's pretty. But they overlook, is she nice? Because she's pretty is the cocaine that's in the forefront so much. That's the challenge for men, to ignore the cocaine being thrown at them with a woman they find attractive and go, yeah, that's fine, but... And then you look at the important things that would allow you to stay with this person for the long term. Because that's the stuff we tend not to look at. You know, the short term, she's hot. That could just be a moment. That could be a one-night stand. Who cares? But if you're really considering saying, okay, yeah, we'll be exclusive. Oh, yeah, okay, let's have kids. And you don't really look at the important stuff. I just don't know why guys don't do it. But yeah, certainly what happened with Joe, there are elements of female nature in terms of moving on quickly, not caring, never, like, you know, always wanting more. There's a lot of traits. All women have the traits in one degree or another, just like men have certain traits in one degree or another. We've got competitiveness, we've got potential for violence, but then so do women actually. Women probably have more potential for violence, but, you know, nature created them weaker than men, thankfully, because you look at the way women treat each other in the schoolyard. Women hate each other. So if women were stronger than men, our species wouldn't exist. We'd be gone first, and then all the other women would be gone last. Also, love's a tricky one because marketing out there sells you what it should be according to the world, but also when you look at the way they sell love to you, you know, rings and weddings and you know, that romantic horse crap. Love is very subjective. A large part of it, like what you consider, in the same way that your contentment and happiness is subjective. So I can look at some guy in a Ferrari who's an accountant. He's got a yacht and he loves his life, and he, you know, flies planes or whatever the hell it is. It's got nothing to do with me. That's his happiness, but it's got nothing to do with mine. In the same way, your compatible love with someone or something, say your hobby, is very different. People don't understand why I can be so content sitting down with pencil and paper and either writing or drawing or coming up with videos, why it's so fulfilling to me. Whereas to them, it's kind of like, yeah, I can understand it's interesting, and, you know, that's really cool that you're interested in those things and you develop skills and you enjoy that stuff. I can kind of imagine why and see how it fulfills you, but I can't quite connect with it. So I think that's the same thing with love, and finding a like-minded person that you both see the same kind of values connected to what love means to you. In the same way you meet someone, I know in my case, when I got interested in writing, then when I went and met people in writing groups and started to take it seriously, you'd meet different personalities, but then you'd meet, not only are they interested in writing, they've gone to these groups, you also meet particular personalities that are exactly like you. They're kind of like someone you've known all your life, a brother, and also they're into writing too. That's kind of like awesome. they're the kind of concatenating effects, the things that should be going together if you're going to have relationships with someone. Too many of us bought into the young version of, opposites attract. They do not, man. It took me a long time to realize, and you're too nice of a guy thinking, well, I don't want to be too hard. She can be completely different. I'm not a hard guy. I'm really nice. She can like all these different things I have no interest in. Yeah, she can be angry. I'm patient. That's fine. Opposites attract. Yin and yang. No. Values and interests, man, they go a long way. Not to be competitive with each other, but you have to look from the same perspective, looking down the same road, and want to travel down that same road. Not that one person's going, okay, I'll go down this road with you, but as long as then we can go down my road later. And then there's this tug of war, or most likely what happens is that one person tries to make you go, you're going down my road, I don't care. I'll tolerate your road at the start for a little bit until we're locked in, but then it's my way or the highway. Thank you, Joe, again for the super chat, man. He says, it happened in the streets of New York City. A group of guys assaulted her. So Joe was talking about how he saved his ex from being assaulted in New York. What can you do in the moment, though? You love the person you're with. Of course you're going to protect them. I mean, if you knew how things were going to end, I'm pretty sure you probably just would have let her handle herself. Emmett says, do you think withholding access to electronic devices is bad practice in relationships? Friend's husband jerked at the thought of allowing his wife to use his second phone for an emergency. His second phone? Like a business phone or something? Yeah, when you have to start treating each other like kids that you're pulling treats away from, like, you have to tell each other, look, let's put our phones down. We need to listen to each other, and the person's so used to being on their phone that their mind's there at their phone while they're talking to you. In the same way, some people, when they're talking to you, they're not really listening. Their mind's either waiting for something they want to say, or it's elsewhere. I think people's minds are constantly connected to their phones. So even when they put it down, they're wondering whether they've got messages, what their social media feed is, and all of that sort of stuff. I think as these generations go on, it's going to be harder and harder. I can laugh and say, look how stupid it is. Why are you addicted to social media? I guess easy for me to say. I haven't been imprinted with this stuff from birth. I haven't had a screen in my hand from birth. I went from no internet to the internet, then later on social media, which that was a really big eye-opener. We've got 305 concurrent viewers. And at the moment, 150, I think, current viewers. All right, let's go on with more of the questions. Whoa. Okay. We've got a lot of questions. Let me fly through them now. Are you interested in narcissism topics and attachment theories? They're interesting, a lot to go into though. There's specific areas to discuss that you need a lot of foundational terms to describe to people before you can actually discuss it. So it's getting into an in-depth topic where the terms, people are going to be lost because they don't know what it means. They don't know what MPD means. They don't know what emotional flashbacks are. They don't know what there's just a lot of terms that'll prop up, and while you're trying to talk about them, you have to keep stopping yourself to explain the terms to others. So for instance, someone who doesn't know anything about the red pill and arena, if we're just talking like this and we're dropping terms like Briefalt's law and male mother need, hypergamy, etc., they're going to go, what the hell are these people talking about? But yeah, it's very interesting, especially in relation to you analyzing how you may have been treated, what relationships you've been in, connecting those things to how you were raised, what personality structure you have, are you a people pleaser, all of those kind of things. So it's definitely a topic worth going into if a lot of the stuff in the red pill arena is leaving you a little bit stale, or it comes off as a little bit theatrical. You want something a bit more personal. Red Pill Mentor Tokyo says, for Adriano, there is some variance from the West, but do realize that with a new environment comes the potential for new dysfunctions. Yeah, don't forget where you live in the world. That adds a whole bunch of dysfunctions socially, which add to the struggle of individuals within that social group getting together. So you're trying to find your pumpkin amidst a sea of dysfunctional people that have been informed and awash by the media in this country and what they're being made afraid of. Like, look at the current state with the world now, with the pestilence going on and the fear. So depending on what country you're in, there's a certain level of fear, and the way the country looks at it. Then you add that to social structure, how much girl power is in that country as opposed to how little girl power rhetoric and media is in that country. How many single mothers, or what the marriage rate is in that country as opposed to a country without it. So there's a lot of factors that add up by the time it gets to you and finding that special person. The worse the environment, the more behind the eight ball you'll be when you finally want to get back, when you want to get to one-on-one, finding a friend or a lover. Dunster says it's a big advantage for a man to be broke and ugly these days. On the outset, most people say, hang on, what? But then it clicks. You know, there is. Because then you know there's no two ways about whether the person actually is looking at you or if they're not. If they appreciate you or if they appreciate all the window dressing around you. Remember, guys, if you want to ask a question, make sure you highlight it with some emojis. Maz says, do you think narcissism and BPD could be on the rise? Yes. Reasons I ask is I think my ex was never had a relationship since that. It opened my eyes, and I see a lot of games a lot of women play. Narcissism is on the rise. If you watch guys who sort of talk about it fairly maturely, like Richard Grannon and Sam Vaknin, they suggest that social media is actually creating a narcissistic environment, even if it's not creating clinical narcissists per se. And I don't want to go too deep in this because a lot of people will get lost, is that it's encouraging a narcissistic environment, as in that's the way we operate, that's how we get attention, that's how we get likes on social media. Treat people this way, step on them, I get likes, I get money, etc., etc. So social media encourages a narcissistic environment that we all feel like, okay, this is the way we operate and this is the way we're seen. Not necessarily that we clinically develop hardwired narcissism, because you've got people that are like that. But that's a sort of in-depth rabbit hole. I don't want to go too far in it. But I do agree that social media has exacerbated it a lot. As far as I know, narcissism is still being removed from the psychological DSM, their sort of Bible of psychological literature, last 2 years, I think. And from what I've heard, they took narcissism out as a disorder just because it's so normalized. And when you look at the base of it, most women act, even if they're not narcissists per se, they act narcissistically, as in, it's all about me. I don't care about you. You exist to the degree that it's all about me. And if you look at most women, the way they operate, it's like from the outset, you ask them out, where do they want to go, you pay for them. It's all yes, 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 impress her, and she's back there going, yeah, I'll see if I pick him, and I'll be passive. And it's all about me. Treat me well, give me flowers. Now, it's not a malicious thing, but at base, there are a lot of narcissistic traits in women that men don't have, especially in the courting process. It's almost like a one-way street if a man wants to get a woman. So there are a lot of those narcissistic traits. Now, you exacerbate that with the social media environment pouring kerosene on that and making us all, men and women, more narcissistic. Not a good formula for people getting on well. That's a great formula for a lot of chaos, a lot of short term, a lot of frustration, a lot of mental problems, a lot of antidepressants, a lot of therapy in the future, a lot of broken people, a lot of people who can't form lasting relationships, a lot of people that it's never about them. They don't need to get therapy. It's about the world. My ex was always a narcissist. I wasn't. No, I don't need to look at myself. Maybe you had some traits that need to be looked at. No, it can't be you. I'm great. My mother tells me I'm great. Can't be me. Anyway, interesting topic, but a very in-depth topic that it's a whole channel in and of itself. But yeah, Dunster, it's a big advantage for a man to be broke and ugly these days. Arch said, the trouble with Joe's story is if the man was getting assaulted, the girlfriend would have been expected to run away and get the cops. The boyfriend, however, would be a social outcast if he did that. Yeah, that's true too. Add to that the fact, women compared to men, they don't have as big a... Men are more loyal to the tribe than women. So add to the fact that if you look at it in a primitive sense, if the guy in the street, if he defeated you, she's more likely to go with the guy that defeated her former lover. In terms of biological sense, because he's the alpha. Yeah, I know women will say, oh, I'd never do that, but just history shows it time and time again. The husband kisses his wife and children on the forehead and goes off to fight another tribe for them, for his community. And if he perishes, the person that killed him comes back into the village, and the wife actually, a lot of cases where the wife will take him as her husband, maybe begrudgingly, but it's kind of like, yeah, I don't like it, but I guess I'll have to do it. So a lot of stuff that justifiably men have a sour taste in their mouth about, but biologically, it is what it is. I'm not saying we have to like it. Kubasniak said, I just found recently that I'm a narcissist and can't make good relationships because of it. So you went and got diagnosed out of your own free will? That's interesting because there's not many, I haven't heard of very many people who are true narcissists that think they need therapy. So who diagnosed? This is a tricky thing too. Even professional therapists, they get the degree, and a lot of them are broken people. And they're looking sometimes to diagnose people with narcissism or a certain label. But if you are, it's better that you know what you are, whatever it is, I suppose. But make sure you just don't define yourself as the label. Just the name says, why is it when you care about someone so much, but they barely give you the time of day? No idea. Also, look at why you're giving someone so much. You know, if there's not like a mutual back and forth, if you have to shovel in, you know, 100 times more and you barely get 1% back, stop saying, well, maybe if I give 200%. A lot of times it's our own optimism, so I have no idea. The best thing you can do is calibrate yourself. Then you know when to say this is enough. But if you kind of go, I'm just going to endlessly give without boundaries, and then I can present myself later and say, I was the good guy. Yeah, well and good, but you wasted years of your life, or the person just took from you and they abused you. Yeah, you were right. You weren't right, but you were the better person and they weren't. But who cares? They got what they want from you. They used and abused you. There's no point being the martyr when there's a world full of people that want you to be. They benefit. Okay. Nick, thank you for the donation and super chat. He says, was in 2 adult long-term relationships, felt drained financially and emotionally after both. Single now, my life takes off like a rocket. Yeah, freedom, as Mel Gibson said. For me, the writing is on the wall. Great content, you speak my mind. Cheers from Port Clinton, Ohio. Thanks, man. Yeah. Freedom's liberating, especially if you've come from a prison or something really bad, like an awful relationship where, you know, it was so not what you wanted. That the opposite, like not having that in your life, feels 10 times better. And some guys that get a taste of this kind of freedom, they came from what freedom wasn't, and they go back into another prison or hell. I can't understand why they do that. It's kind of like, you're given freedom, don't squander it. You know, learn the lessons of where you came from. Good to hear, though. Mr. Hypermean, the golden rule is it. The golden rule is for me, he says. Also, is what I do healthy for me and others if we speak of the baseline of male and female nature? Yeah, especially for you to understand yourself and others. Then rather than you being intimidated by a stranger coming in front of you, at least if you kind of know where you stand, that's the best starting point. But if you don't care about yourself, you don't know what you're just the nothing. Your world operates from you just looking outward and being affected by the world. You don't affect the world at all in terms of your perception and how you operate. Then most times you're going to be taken advantage of. Kabasniak said, I wonder if this audience is religious at all. I myself am an atheist and left-leaning. Yeah, interesting. I think there's a whole bunch of people in my audience, which is good in a way. I don't want an echo chamber. I want civil people, even if they have slightly different ideas, that we can sort of have a live and let live discussion. Boxer in the making. What you give and what you get are two separate random things, no rules whatsoever. Yeah. especially when you're in the real-time process of interacting with someone. It's not like you can put pause on the interaction in front of somebody, then you can go back to your mind and your literature and your red pill ideas and process, and then press play again on the interaction. It's the more you're interested in this language, how you think, how you speak, what's real, what's not, what's A, what's B, what's right, what's wrong, what works for you, what doesn't, is that it becomes more and more of a reflex. So then when you're in front of someone, there's less of that confusion. You know what to say. JW says, would you agree that, how can I say this without getting flagged? The current pestilence going on has proven, above other things, just how much people despise their own company. Yeah, a lot of people, they're going nuts having to be locked on their own, and also with their partners. They finally realize that they don't like the person they married or that they're with. Interesting, huh? People seem to value events above all else, yeah. People are really into the spectacle over the substance of things. Hey, Mr. Highway, thanks for the super chat. Tore my ACL yesterday, 2020. Am I right? I'm not sure what you mean. Another question, another comment from a previous video. KS said, The Secret, the Oprah styled one that I talked about in the video, women's memes, and they like The Secret and all this amorphous spirituality that means nothing. He says The Secret, aka voodoo, apparently these women did not have decent parents setting them straight. I'll leave them with great advice my dad gave me. You deserve nothing if you are unwilling to work hard for it. Good piece of advice your dad gave you. I agree. I hate today's me, childish, narcissistic, gynocentric environment where everything should be given to people, even taken from people who have worked hard and they should have what they have. No, I want a piece of it. I don't want to work for it. It's not fair. They have a Ferrari. I don't. UK Templar Knight, thank you for the super chat and donation. You said, found my woman in bed with someone when I was in the armed forces. It's such a cliche. Why are so many women cheating on their husbands when they're away in the military? I know why, but it's such a cliche that it's not a one-off. He wasn't giving me attention. I was desperate for love. No, you weren't. You're desperate for something else. Later on, I was in hospital. I heard a nurse say she wanted my money because she knew I was a self-made man. Put me off. Yeah, when you see I think what's disappointing with men is that when we see the worst parts of female nature, it's such a stark contrast to what women market and present to you. They market and present to you a sweet little girl who's incapable of anything bad. It's all someone you need to protect, and she's the mother of your kids. She's almost a neotenous child herself, and you feel like protecting her, and it helps you open up as a guy and fulfill your protective sort of instincts. So then when they show the actual opposite, moral and ethical things that you would never do, your friends would never do to you as men. That's the real betrayal, I think, the contrast Whereas with men, women kind of know that we can be basic and brutish and we can be savages and violent, whatever, and we kind of curb it. But just above the surface, we can be idiots and we can be fairly basic in that way. But I think the betrayal comes from the polar opposite of what women convey to you. The marketing, the selling. Buy this great product, look at it, it's everything you want. And then when these characteristics come out, a lack of empathy, which also kind of shows you don't want that as the mother of your kids. A person that's that callous and cold and cruel, that's nothing like the person that I fell in love with. Who is this person? It's like a real Jekyll and Hyde thing. For women, about the only thing they can kind of say is like if a guy sort of cheats on them. But in general, even women accept that, just below the surface, even their boyfriend has the potential to cheat, but they just kind of pick a guy with better moral character that can sort of hold himself back or isn't as addicted to women. But a lot of these stories where a woman just puts on an act, and then when she really, like, it's easy for people to tell you how moral and great they are when things are fine. It's only when they're tested that you see that the brochure matches the reality of the thing. So a woman can say like, oh yeah, I'd never cheat on you. But then when you give her the best opportunity to see whether she would, then you actually know if you can trust her. And again, add into the fact that I said most guys don't even want to look closely at their girlfriends while they're dating. They let things slide, that like when she's got a temper, she doesn't give back, she doesn't reciprocate, she's not kind, blah, blah, blah. It's like, nah, that's nothing, that's small. And then later on when something big happens, like she cheats on you, it's like, is it a real surprise given everything else that led up to it? I mean, you can't ignore her cheating on you now. It's too big to kind of sweep under the carpet and say, oh yeah, we're still going out. Real name's not given. Quasimandias' newest video seems kind of fitting for the conversation. Released 30 minutes before this stream. Grab a notepad. Yeah, go check out Quasimandias' channel. If you guys want some real mature philosophical, a deeper dive into this stuff, he's great. I'll need to watch it. I didn't know he released something today. See ya. Real name's not given. Make sure your questions, guys, you highlight them, and make sure the grammar is something that I can actually understand. Sorry, some of the questions I don't know what you're asking. Pierre says marriage has been the lowest in 150 years. Yeah, it was in an all-time low, I think, about 7 or 8 years ago. So now it's even worse. Diamond companies are going down because men are not purchasing diamond rings. Oh, boo-hoo. Diamond companies are going broke. My heart's breaking. In all seriousness, yeah, what it signifies is interesting, though. Yeah, Fix 100 says something interesting. Without accountability, life is like a lottery for women, and they think people just win jobs by chance. That is why you see them so strong on it being their turn. Yeah. Why can't women, there's no equality here. Why aren't 50% of boardroom people women? We want to win that too. Look, men won CEO positions. We should be able to win it too. Yeah, everything kind of for most women's brains out there. The average woman that thinks like a effinist. If I can, I hate the way I have to play this verbal hopscotch to avoid this video being flagged. Coffee shops, they go about life today. The average woman goes about thinking that if it's not fair, if there aren't enough women getting stuff, it's like women should be given stuff as in the same way they're handed flowers. It's like, I want flowers. I want flowers. Just give it to me. It's like, nah. Aside from your boyfriend or your intimate life, you don't get flowers. Everything else is earned. Cheryl says, these issues are the result of societal decay, materialism. Yeah, they're a big factor in adding kerosene onto the fire. Yeah, they make it worse. Oh, sorry, Joe. Joe says, I never said I was a vet. I thought you said, my mistake. Basically, just that situation where he saved his girlfriend or partner's life in the street. Sorry, my mistake. Why do I think you were a vet? Another comment from the last video. Should you feel grateful for sex? Idaho King said, imagine a ceremonial, he says, I think he imagines, a ceremonial mound on which a woman stands alone, and all around it is a sea of hopeful men. That's how many, both men and women, see it. Many do. JW says, you've mentioned that you're a creative person. Do you ever feel agitated when you've gone a certain length of time without being creative? Yes, I do. I really enjoy sort of sitting down, a bit of solitude, a pencil and paper. When I'm not talking to people, I'm constantly sort of either listening to audio books, spoken word, listening to downloaded podcasts and videos off YouTube. I'm listening to other conversations. If I'm not having conversations, I'm thinking about things. I'm writing, I'm painting, I'm making music, I'm making these videos. So it's a big part of what fuels me. There's a lot of interest in that. There's a lot of stuff to get up for and to do, and that's me. I think that's why I always some guys don't have anything that they throw themselves at, or what I like to call, you need to have something you tinker with. And I tinker with a lot creatively. People struggle where they don't have things to tinker with. The teenager says, women's number one gatekeeper is looks. Cheryl says, why do you believe this is just women and not men? I didn't say it's just women. I'm talking from a male's point of view. Being heterosexual, by dint of my sexuality, my and most guys' frustrations is our interaction in trying to relate to women. And most of society is talks from a female's point of view anyway. 99% of the information out there understands or tries to understand and coddles and excuses a woman's point of view and so on and so forth, but there's not very many people talking from a male's point of view. This is what I think, and I'm trying to do it as civilly as possible, but also not always including, yeah, but what about women? I acknowledge women, and I acknowledge how human beings can act similarly, but there's precious little male mentoring going along around and guys openly discussing what they see, how things are affecting them, let alone now having to accommodate women into the situation again. Because in society, like, all it is a woman's point of view. If a man tries to talk from, look, this is what I think it's different, and this is my interpretation from a male's point of view, it's seen as it's not palatable. So yeah, there's similarities between all people, but there are very stark differences between males and females, and particularly where we operate from. Some things are a human issue, but some things are specifically a male-female issue. Yeah, like Cheryl says, I've been dating men are off their heads, and where do you even find women with vision boards, man? Look elsewhere. Vision boards were sort of a decade or so ago, but even now, women's modern vision boards, you look on their Instagram feeds, is, the pictures of a woman, doing a yoga pose, and there's text overlaid, and there's that sort of ephemeral spiritual garbage of like, believe in the universe and you will get what you deserve. They're the modern vision boards. So they're everywhere now. Often when you find women that says, I'm into spirituality, or I'm into philosophy, I've got some depth, I've got some philosophical and intellectual depth. You talk to them and they're just these kind of chicks. They believe in energy and crystals and universe and the law of attraction and the secret and all this stuff that magically just happens if you believe in it. So it might not be vision boards per se now, but now it's moved on to this ambiguous female feel-good philosophy that's sort of more akin with unicorns and crystals and feelings and energy and just believe and things will happen. That's the modern vision board. JB, do you think a correlation exists between female teachers receiving class attention and guys learning to, in general, that he will be one in a homogenous group? Yeah. Yeah, teaching's predominantly female, and people are taught in a very like being sort of rambunctious and like problem children. They used to give young boys Ritalin to calm down them not being able to sit still, but also there's a lot of things that play into that. Like maybe you're teaching him stuff that's boring the crap out of the kid. He doesn't need medication. But also teaching now is teaching the kids to be compliant, and women tend to lean more towards compliant than guys do. Guys have a natural propensity to sort of say, yeah, but why? Why should I? I don't like this. Who's banging? But yeah, certainly the style of teaching today is very much geared more towards women than men or boys or males. It's more about compliance, talking, thinking and acting the way you should, rather than learning things and developing yourself as a person. Sifu says, what you give to yourself is priceless and what you give back is selective. And your will to help only when reciprocal energy is exchanged. Yes, that's a nice way of putting it. It's a good just way to sort of adjust your thinking, is you give but you're just aware of giving too much, and whether your interactions are a one-way street from you outward all the time and nothing's ever coming back the other way. Because the best platonic or romantic relationships are the ones where you're playing a tennis match of giving and receiving. Trust me, to pick a morning where someone's banging away on a fence or a car or something. Yeah, the picture is a bit overblown because I've got the sun coming in and out. Sorry, guys. Is that better? James said he didn't get the notification. Ooh, that's interesting. This is the thing, I try and notify and put posts up and things, but I have no control over what the platform, when they notify people or they don't. That's why I say make sure you subscribe, guys. Check that you are subscribed. Sometimes you might have subscribed, but YouTube, for some reason, unchecks that. Sometimes when they update, make sure you hit the bell icon and you've selected all too. Because periodically, I think what happens is even if you're subscribed, if you haven't sort of visited certain channels you're subscribed to, they can tell when you've been inactive, and they take the bell off, and then they just unsubscribe you. So you have to actively go in and show interest again and subscribe again. So just make sure you're subscribed in the way you want to be, so you can get notifications. Status, thank you for the donation, the super chat. He said, you can't even talk about what women bring to the table without being called names. Women today are too thirsty and have no self-respect. Women are encouraged to act in self-interest, men to sacrifice. Yeah, but that's why I encourage guys to think and speak better. So you can call women out, or anyone out, when they act selfishly beyond what's right. Too many guys kind of just shut their mouth because they either don't know what to say or don't think they have the permission to say things. Don't spurg out like a lot of women tend to do. Talk with intelligence. Know what to say and point out when something's wrong. Don't let the bad behavior of women slide, and the best way you can do it is talk more intelligently than a lot of these savages do. It's good for you too. Make your life better. You feel more in control when you have the courage to speak out. A lot of guys suffocate because they don't express themselves in relationships or out in society. It's a really slow death. Quasimandiah says, I haven't found homely girls to have any more virtue or maturity than good-looking ones, so no point in those at all. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. You marginally, objectively, sure, you could probably think that a girl who's a fat chick is going to have a bit more of a personality because she has to be nicer. She can't just get by on her looks. But then you've also got a lot of people, especially in today's society, where they tell people that they're worth it all the time, even if they've got bad personalities and they look awful. They don't look attractive. They say, well, fat is beautiful. So you've got people who objectively and from a biological reproductive standpoint, they look like a red flag. Your biology is going like, this doesn't look like a healthy specimen to breed with. That's what your biology is saying. But society's saying, no, we're all viable. We're all beautiful. But yeah, you see a lot of obnoxious people, ugly, overweight, awful attitudes, and you think, you look terrible. And on top of that, you've decided to be a terrible person as well. Your personality is awful. You are really making it hard for yourself to have a good life or to get along with people or find somebody that's going to be with you or to have friends. That's the funny thing. When you see people with awful traits or awful personalities on top of really average or subpar appearance, it's like, man, you're not doing yourself any favors. Okay. Is there any more comments on the last video from Portal Thinks? He says about the should we feel grateful for sex as men? I was talking about in terms of we should see it as a two-way street. You shouldn't feel grateful for getting it. You should look at it from a standpoint, a perspective of you are sharing sex and intimacy with someone. You're not grateful for getting it. I know our biological drive makes us feel that way, and the marketing exploits that, but you should always look at it from your own self-respect and use to respect other people as a two-way street, as a dance. You're sharing intimacy with someone. He says, oh, how nice. A half-eaten, picked apart Arby's roast beef sandwich that's been fished out of the bottom of the dumpster and repackaged and being sold for full price. How thoughtful of you, sweetie, to be thinking of me. Okay, that was a bit of fun, I admit. But it was too funny not to show. Just because says the price you pay for quote-unquote love just isn't worth it in today's world, but the alternative ain't cheap either. Yeah, that's a good point. You might think that today's romantic love is expensive and women are expensive, but then there is a price to be paid also if you do the opposite of that, and without self-reflection and without self-actualization, developing a moral philosophy. If you don't do any of that, the price for that, the psychological price, can be very high too. We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes now, I think. Oh, okay, I think I've missed a few questions. Why are so many Australian guys red-pilled? No idea. It's a very feminized country, especially here in Victoria. There's a few red-pill guys in Victoria. Don't forget to hit the like and share my videos around as well on your social media, guys, as much as I'm not a fan of social media. No one gets notified without it, I suppose. Dream Crusher says all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. It's a quote. Blaise Pascal. Okay, let me try and go through some of these questions. Thomas says, do you think modernity with the internet, social media ads are revealing how relationships, fragile humans really care? Comparison, temptation, and distraction are now so accessible and abundant. Yeah. It's bringing to light people's, the failure of parents bringing their children up to be robust and strong. People are growing up to be protracted children through all of their lives. They're offended at everything. They're entitled to everything. They feel like everything's owed to them. It's offensive if someone has worked and earned something. It's like, I want it too. It's not fair that they have it and I don't. There's a lot of childishness in the world today, put it that way. And then you can see a lot of branches, of what led to that. Yeah, when I was mentioning tribal times where women would marry and sleep with the conqueror of the village that killed her own husband in war. The movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise is a good example of that. Somehow it was romantic. Not from a guy's point of view. Guys, if you there are some questions I have no answer to, and some of them I'm not ignoring. I'd rather not read them and say, like, I don't know, sorry. So I'm not ignoring them, I just don't have an answer. Roman says, Human, do you have any examples of good relationships among peers your age? Oh, yeah. And that's what, look, I've got my, most of my childhood high school friends. They're in good, fulfilling, stable relationships, but they got married in their early to mid-20s. My immediate siblings, my sister and my brother, they're in good relationships. So I've got examples everywhere. And I've had one or two good relationships myself, so I've personally experienced what they are, and they reflect what I see in the good relationships of the people around me. So they're not myths, but there's also the thing, I realize what the majority of people out there are like. I realize how the majority of women out there act, and they're nothing like. They're good examples I see in my family. They're nothing like the one or two moments I've had them in my own life. And I'd rather be happy and alone than unhappy with someone just to have them as a token partner. Hi-ho Silver, no dislikes, what are you doing wrong? I don't know. Dislike my video, guys, go ahead. YouTube might actually like it, I'm not sure. I think social media, they like friction because it means more people are talking and agitating each other. Give me a few dislikes, guys, go ahead. Doesn't bother me. But I'm grateful that people are more positive, not to agree with me, but in terms of the message and talking around the subject, talking about more important things. Let's do another comment on the last video. The notion of getting lucky. Oh yeah, this is one I wanted to include. I can't stand that notion where the woman will say, well, if you play your cards right, you'll get lucky tonight. It's like, go get lost, will you? Like, I'll get lucky. Again, I don't like this, I've got the ace up my sleeve, and if you do everything right, if you say yes to everything, then I'll allow you to sample this, which to me should be just a natural thing you share between each other. It's like me stopping just sharing things with the person I care about at every point, going, hang on a minute, give me 10 things before I give you something. Hang on a minute, give me another 10 things before I'll make you feel lucky enough to get a kiss on the cheek or hold your hand. Hang on a minute. It's just so condescending. He says, the notion of getting lucky and other blue pill debasing terms always enrage me. Yeah, me too. I should be grateful for small scraps of affection. As Big John once said, I did all the work and you just lay there. Yeah. When you actually look at the effort the average decent guy would put into a relationship and how grateful he's made to feel for just scraps, I can understand why guys get annoyed. Especially when you're a person of fairness. Okay, guys, been going for an hour and 25 minutes. Let's start wrapping it up. If you've got any more questions, throw them at me. Otherwise, we'll head for the finish line. And I'll just skim your comments to see if there's any more questions. The way some people write today, some of you guys write in modern SMS text speak. Your grammar's terrible. Sorry, man. So it's really hard to make sense of some of the grammar. There's another reason to start writing, guys. Not for your own psychology and to sort of see how you think, but to sort of improve your grammar. Darko says, beware of women who are unusually quickly interested in you. Look, the primal interest in someone you immediately see and find attractive, it's quite natural. But yeah, the person, you meet people that they got their foot on the accelerator in terms of being together, wanting to move in together. You hear those stories and falling in love overnight. Yeah, I'm suspicious. To me, that takes time because you need to sort of develop trust and see what the person's character and moral fiber is made of. Fluffing Fluff says, human, please define happiness. I've always thought of happiness as a consequence of living well in terms of like doing what you know is right. People aim for happiness, but happiness to me is a consequence. So I've said this before. In your own life, you get on stage and you do your own thing, your own song and dance. You do what you want to do. You do the interests you want to do. The applause from the audience is happiness. You know, you get it after you do something for yourself, not for the audience, but you get on stage and you do your own thing. You do what's right for you. You look at, what do I want to do? How do I want to live my life? What's fair? How should people treat each other reciprocally? All of that kind of stuff. And then you'll get happiness, or more, it's better to aim for contentment, but fair enough, happiness. Happiness is the applause from the audience when you're performing properly for yourself. And the audience really isn't other people, it's life itself. I don't know how you want to figuratively look at it, but yeah, happiness is a result of honesty, lack of fear, doing what you know is right and going down the direction you know is right. Yeah, Cynthia says, red flags will show you a lot about what a person is about. We choose to ignore them. Yep, we do. A bit too optimistic we are, a lot of us. Too much of, it doesn't mean anything. That was just a one-off. They screamed at the waiter for no reason. That's alright. Everyone gets angry. It's funny how we can justify a lot of stuff because we don't want to look at what's real, or actually even ask the person, why did you say that? Cynthia says, say the word f. There, I just said it, but I bleeped it out. Thomas says, do you think modernity with the internet, social media, ads are revealing how relationships fragile humans really are? Comparison temptation, distraction are now too accessible and abundant. Yeah, social media actually actively works to break relationships apart. If it sees you haven't been on there a while, that can, it's been shown, like for instance, Facebook might ping you with, if you haven't been on Facebook in a while and you're a regular user of Facebook, its algorithm realizes that you've dropped off. And what it does is it wants you back. So it might ping you, your ex-girlfriend just posted a post, and it sort of does everything it can to sort of get your eyeballs back onto social media. So it does its best to get rid of human, like real life human relationships. The social media and the system want your eyeballs on screen as much as possible, because that's where they can advertise to you. That's where they can get your attention. That's the way that they can mold how you think. So you have to do work into sort of, knowing where you live, know where your values lie. Okay, make sure, again, any questions, highlight them with emojis somehow. Otherwise, I might not see them, guys. And talk to each other nice. George asks, when it comes to living a quote-unquote better life, how important is writing and speaking rightly and correctly and righteously? It seems the wonder of words is in decline. I agree. It's hard. I mean, I wish more people would be interested in, but again, it's a subjective thing. I don't know, for whatever reason, I find words and philosophy and all of this sort of stuff interesting, which is why I enjoy speaking like this and thinking like this. And some people go like, well, we should all learn to, but how do you get someone interested in it? That's the hard thing. So subjectively, if you're not interested in it, how do you, twist someone's arm to think and speak better if they don't want to, if they find it boring or dull? Cynthia, I don't want to say the word just because the algorithm, if you say any word it doesn't like, it throttles the video. I wish I could. That's why I bleep out certain words in videos. I try and say what I want, but I have to unfortunately bleep things out because of the stupid censorship. Be nice to each other in the comment section, guys. Don't act like children. Alphadeo says, hey human, could you share your point of view on getting into a relationship where the partner already has kids? It depends on what you can live with, man. Some guys don't find it a problem. I do. That I have gone out with women who do have kids, but I make it very apparent that I don't want to be a father. I'm not going to be the father's replacement. I accept she's got kids and it's fine, and if they're cool, but I'm not going to be the father of that kid. I'm not going to be a substitute. I'm not going to pay for it, nothing. Obviously, I'm not blunt and cold like that to her, but I kind of let her know in those terms that I'm interested in her. I want a relationship with her, and I don't want to be a father. The child has its own father, and I'm never going to be it. But yeah, it's up to every person whether or not they want to go out with single mother. My first preference is I don't. That's not my first choice. I don't find single mothers attractive. I have gone out with a few, but they were exceptionally nice people. So it took me a lot to go out with them. But they had a lot of other qualities that overridden them. They kind of understood my point of view, and we respected each other and so forth. But yeah, it depends on your own boundaries. Oh, 444 Gun says, relax human, we can't really hear the background noise. Okay, I can. My microphone and my noise gate must be better on my microphone than I thought. Ken G, thank you for the donation. He says, I believe hypergamy is nature's response to humans living in a tribal situations where men were no longer a scarcity, no longer needing to rely on one another for survival. Thanks to the tribe, the focus becomes filtering. Good point. Good point. Yeah, we can learn a lot from history, but we pretend, oh no, we're so modern, we're beyond that now. We don't have hard wiring, we don't have hardware, everything's software. We can just change the software and sit around a fire singing Kumbaya. Krista asks, do you have any criteria for your friends? Like for me to be friends with someone, some requirements have to be met. Any advice on how to find good and like-minded friends? I probably subconsciously I do, but it's not as I don't. I'm not as conscious about it. It's probably a bit more relaxed than with a woman because there's so much at stake with a woman if you're obviously trying to get together to date. You know why you're there. There's an organic way you find friends that fit, whereas with a woman, that's a more intentional way. So you have to intentionally be conscious when you're relating to a woman that's there on a date. Whereas with a friend, it's organic. A friend can't take you to court because of blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot less to worry about with a friend. Yeah, you're going to get psychopaths, whatever, but there's a lot less to worry about between the dynamic of you and a friend. But I've said before, I look for the same qualities in a lover as I do with a best friend. You know, they're the things I respect. So there's a lot of crossover. Morals, ethics, how we see the world, what commonalities we have, how well we get along naturally and organically, things like that. So there's a lot of overlap. I don't think they're two separate things. And I'd say we'd have the healthiest lovers if we went into them as open to speak and having conversations and getting to know each other as we do with friends, because we're a lot more relaxed with finding friends because it's a lot more organic and there's really no real dangers there, whereas there are with romantic and relationships and things like that. Again, guys, some of the questions I can't answer. My answer is going to be I have no idea, so I'm just not going to read them. I'm not ignoring you. Cheryl, I get it. I hate the secret BS. It's nuts. I wish all you guys well, but just as a do, look for people who were raised better. Earth is loaded with idiots, both genders. Yep, true. Is human married? No. What would make you think that I'm married? George says, how important is the ability to speak and write rightly, correctly, and righteously? Not many people talk about the impact, but yeah, I think I mentioned that. I answered that. I think it's just repeating the question. Very important, I say. Especially the people I respect. See, part of introspection to me isn't just like, okay, I think about it, but to make it tactile. So I like implementing it on paper to really process it, and then you implement it with the way you speak. And I found that's the best way for it to kind of solidify. Then when you call on it, like the way I'm speaking, it comes out more like you write. But if you just think about it, it's like trying to develop a language with a herd of cats going around in your head. So writing, I felt, organizes the herd of cats and makes them into something that doesn't resemble a herd of cats. George says, you asking the same question again. AU, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. He says, happy Thanksgiving, human. We don't make a big deal of Thanksgiving here. It's an American thing, isn't it? Is that the one where you guys have the turkey? I think that's the one. Does AU have a holiday in... Does Australia have a holiday in November? No. Did we? I'm not going to look it up now. No, there was. There was a holiday that just passed early November. Melbourne Cup. We have a holiday for a horse race. Yeah, so in November we've got the Melbourne Cup, which I think is ridiculous. Jan has a question. What's Jan's question? No, I haven't watched the Literature Devils video. Hey from Perth. Hey from Melbourne. Alright, what books do I recommend the most? If you go on my blog, I listed a few at the bottom there. So it's hard to pick. I've gotten a lot of tidbits from different books. The easy one to get into, to sort of get into the deep side of what means something in terms of life, and an easy way to get into it for me is Charles Bukowski, especially from a male's point of view. And he just has a really simple, easy way to describe things that a guy might go through. Some of the stuff isn't relatable, like he was a drunk, but other things about how you see the world and what you contemplate, is a really good one. Well, we've had 330 concurrent viewers. Thanks for dropping in, guys. Yeah, give the video and the channel a thumbs up, guys, if you can. BU said, I observed in my past relationships, X said that they were self-sacrificing and I was the selfish one. Yeah, a lot of gaslighting going on with selfish people. They project onto you to feel guilty to give more. than you already are. When in reality, it was the opposite. Why is that? Yeah, exactly. It's kind of that. It's, if you've got a selfish, abusive, narcissistic person, then they're going to project and gaslight you and make you doubt the reality that's in front of you. So if they give nothing and they're demanding and they're cruel, they're going to call you the demanding, cruel person that gives nothing. So it's kind of like it's a reversal of things to make you do what they want you to do. Anthony says, in terms of, I was talking about speaking, thinking, and writing. He says, I think it comes down to depth. You want to speak better and learn more words so you can express yourself better. Yeah, and know more. Like, you start, you have a taste of understanding things. A few light bulbs go up and you go, oh, I want more. This feels good. I like understanding things. I like knowing things. I like speaking better. I speak better. I think better. I can actually connect and confidently talk to more people better. I'm not just kind of suffocating in a hole. You're opening doors for yourself first and foremost, and then like you can engage with the world and other people better too. Mr. Hypermeme, Human, do you think that writing is becoming less important or valued because people don't really appreciate deep reading? Yes, I think there is a connection. Yep. Depth and intelligence isn't rewarded. I mean, even now, intelligence, if you speak, think well, by inference, if you're talking, someone sort of feels inferior because they don't understand you. So the reflex is to survive and go, well, I feel uncomfortable, therefore that person's intelligence is offensive, or intelligence is patriarchal, or whatever it is. You know, like, so intelligence now is being demonized itself. And you look in the world, who are the people who are the most intelligent, and the most intelligent earn the most money, generally. And so they're trying to reward people who are unintelligent, like, you know, we're idolizing people who are dumb, who just make money by just showing themselves on Instagram a photo of their ear, for instance, and they just post a photo of the, like, just really unintelligent, childish, vacuous stuff. So we're rewarding childish, empty behavior, and we're demonizing adult, intelligent behavior. So it's not a good sign. Going to have a lot of dumb children ruling the planet as adults when we in the times ahead. Nice try, Spec Ops. Spec Ops is saying, like, I'm complaining about censorship and tells us what not to say to each other. I'm saying don't act like children. Like, if you want to come and fight with people, go elsewhere. Like, I'm trying to have a back and forth discussion like adults. You can say whatever you want, but if I'm not going to read out stupid things, and I'm not going to tolerate people just being spurgs and trolls driving people away just because they're making it uncomfortable. If you've got something to say it, but don't say it like a child. Don't just look for a fight when there is none. Sebastian, greetings from Germany. Hello. All right, guys, is that all? I'll just go through the last questions. CJXO asks, were you always and are you now a big reader? I was never a big reader. I started to sort of be really interested in reading my early 30s, I think. So as I was coming out of my 20s into my 30s, I think in my early 30s I read more books in 1 year when I started reading than I did in my whole life before that. It just was a steamroll effect. I just wanted more and more and more. But I wasn't naturally, I was always more of a visual creative artist. Like I used to draw a lot and paint and expressing myself that way. But then I found the expressive creative side of writing and reading too. So that was an added bonus, but I came to that later in life. Burkhardt says, any tips on making it through Christmas sadness? Spending it with family makes me depressed, while spending it with a date makes me feel incredibly lonely. Ooh, I don't know what to tell you if those are your particular experiences. I enjoy spending time with my family. Spending time with a particular date, yeah, depending on the person, can make me feel very lonely. I can agree with you there sometimes. Be around the people or even your own routines and things that make you feel good. That's all I can suggest. Again, this kind of shows that how varied we could be. There isn't a one size fits all, but definitely avoid places you can't sort of tolerate or make you feel awful. Matt, human, is it wrong to love a sandwich? No, if it loves you back. And a good sandwich can love you back in that moment. Her Dr. Nappy says, are you willing to do in-depth videos on self-actualization? When I did, not many people were interested. I did a series on red pill epistemology, and there are a few people that liked it, but not for the effort you put in. There's not enough people. I try and sprinkle some of it in my general videos, but videos take time, and people generally aren't that interested. But I try and sort of talk about it in a pedestrian sense when it relates to a specific topic, to sort of get it through the back door, get people thinking, connecting deeper concepts into everyday life. It'll make them hopefully better, and me. Cynthia, which is the most read book of 2020 recommendations? I don't know. I have no idea what's the best book to recommend. It depends on what you're into. For some people, the best book to read that they're reading is something, I don't know, on plants. For some people, it's on, quantum physics. I can't tell you what'll do it for you. Take the medicine you need. Guekaquio, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it, man. Blue Sparks. Hey human, started writing down whatever I thought was needed to write down and reread later on same day. What's the next step? Thanks for your Discord response, by the way. keep doing it. It's kind of like a muscle you exercise. It's not going to be like a light switch. You do it and then all of a sudden all the lights go on. Like anything, unfortunately or fortunately, it's a process. If you find you're doing it for a while, I mean, for a while I mean like days, weeks, months, and like nothing ever changes, it's just as boring as it was on the first day, then stop, try and find something else. But I just know that writing was the best way to cement a lot of this stuff in me. It's the best way to speak well and think well too. Matt says, Human, do you feel cheated out of being a dad? No. No. I never was wired that way. I don't know why. I just never wanted it. It wasn't like a lot of guys that they really want to, but it's just too dangerous. That would be a real existential thing to have on your shoulders and your mind. That you would, if the world was a little bit different, if women and the laws and so forth were a little bit different. Why did I choose the name Human? Seemed the best thing at the time. Kind of a play on words, talking about things from a guy's point of view, man, but from more of a human point of view, not from, you know, a non-mature point of view. Okay, guys, I think we should be wrapping it up soon. It's almost 2 hours, and I don't like going over 2 hours. No one will really, less people will watch the video afterwards as well, but I really appreciate you guys dropping in. Guys, your questions about dating and picking up, I'm not really like a dating coach. I have as much idea, like I can only give you things that I've experienced or whatever, but I have no tactics other than this sort of stuff is like what's going to better you, how you're going to feel better as a person. And it translates for me, it's always translated, it's easy when I go out dating because I'm good in my life. It's not that, you know, my life's empty, I'm nervous, but I've got these words and this game that I can spit at a woman and I can get her to do what I want. I've never liked the idea of acting a certain way to get something. You do that enough at jobs you hate, and out in the world, sometimes you've got to act certain ways to just get along in public. Having to do that in intimate relationships, what an awful life. So yeah, I don't have any tips other than get yourself right, and then dating, it's sort of knowing what to say and how to interact with women just becomes pretty easy. You talk to them like you would another guy. Hey, how you going? I don't know. Hey, how you going? Simonson, hi Human, I enjoy your thinking, thank you. I'm wondering if you are familiar with the work of Jordan Peterson. I haven't been living under the rock. I think the whole world is aware of Jordan Peterson. Yeah, I don't mind him. A lot of people don't like him very much. They're fairly split. For a lot of things, he's a great thinker, very smart guy. I'm not on the same page with a lot of stuff he says, but overall, from a lot of stuff I've seen, he tends to, he's not a really antagonizing person unless someone's antagonizing him. He's open to people discussing things that he's not really into. So I don't mind him. And I think that a lot of his the reason why he became so popular so quick is because the male mentor side, like men aren't being considered in a conversation, and he was for the first time considering men and what men are going through, as well as generally human beings. I think that's why he became so popular so quickly, especially with guys, is because for the first time, here's a guy standing up for guys and being very, very articulate, almost like a father figure, intelligent, well-spoken. He's really a good bar to aim for, not in terms of being a blueprint like him, but I think in terms of that direction, you know. Omega Sigma human, shouldn't International Men's Day, November 19th, is that International Men's Day? I remember it vaguely. Be considered a holiday. Yeah. I don't like the whole, you know, women do an International Women's Day, so then we sort of parry and thrust and we go, oh, let's do an International Men's Day. If women are acting stupid, there's no reason for us to be stupid. I don't think women need an International Women's Day any more than I think men need an International Men's Day. It's a political thing I don't think we should get sucked into personally, but if you want to hang your hat on that kind of stuff, International Women's and Men's Days, feel free. Dancing Danny Boy. When was the last time any woman gave you a stock market tip? I can't remember the last. I've never had a really. In terms of the discussions I can have, there's one or two people in my life, my real everyday life, that I can have these kind of really in-depth philosophical, moral discussions with. And they're both male. And there's obviously a few of you guys that I've met and had conversations with online. But I can point to one or two, a couple of women in my life that I can have deep conversations with too, but not to the sort of philosophical depth of men. But when it comes to sort of women that I've dated, oh, forget it. I really don't expect that. It's hard enough to find a good woman, let alone a good woman with a philosophical bent. Lucid Dream says, question, the other day I heard you say that MGTOW for life is a phrase that sounds immature to you. Please explain. Did I say that? I mean that it is best path realizing conditions, or it will not change. I think in terms of that being locked into, you know, it's like a religion. You know, I'm left, I'm right. I go for this football team for life. You know, Jets for life, basketball for life. Thinking for life, yeah, as a general open thing. But anything that's kind of like a closed loop, a little cage for life, I don't like the idea of it. It becomes an echo chamber. That's the only reason I think it, because you look at those people that get very dogmatic and religious in those little, you know, whatever for life. They're an echo chamber and it starts to get very childish. That's the only reason. But, you know, if you're looking at it in terms of a MGTOW for life, in terms of going your own way, being free, autonomous, thinking, a responsible individual that interacts with the world well, then yeah, for life, I agree with that. But it depends on, from what I've seen online, I wouldn't sort of, my knee-jerk reaction is like, yeah, there's a lot of childishness in these groups, and I wouldn't hang my hat in on any one of those titles for life. Because the moment you start to question any precepts and go, yeah, you know about the men and women about, regarding this issue, have you ever thought, it's like, no, you get your hand slapped, you can't talk that way, we only believe in this. David, thank you for the donation and super chat. I really appreciate it. Thanks, man. Jeebus. So many good questions. Thanks for dropping in, guys. It's hard to end the stream. Okay. Thanks for dropping in, guys. How young do I think my audience is? I don't know. I think I've got a range. Young to old, but I'm thankful I've got a good number of middle-aged and older guys that can sort of add some experience and some mature conversation in the comment section. I'm really grateful for that. Buddha Yong says, how do you open the idea about what a relationship should be to an entitled queen? Well, if you just open it as an idea to anyone and you realize their reaction that they are an entitled queen, then you don't go any further. I would suggest don't be around that person and certainly don't have a relationship with them. Get the person to reveal who they are. You be honest, reveal who you are. And especially about, like, you want to call it advice if you guys still want to date, is on a date, be yourself and really try and get the person, ask them the tough questions because you want to know where they stand on moral issues and the important stuff. Don't talk about the weather and the food. Don't do idle chit-chat. Talk about these really important subjects, the subjects that would be, with you, red flags and deal breakers in a relationship. So really look at the important stuff. If they're on the same page, that's a good sign. But if they're an entitled queen and you see that, don't ignore it. See you later, I would suggest. But you do what you want. If you like going out with train wrecks or someone who will make your life a train wreck, be my guest. But I wouldn't suggest it. Roxanne, have you ever published any of your writings? I have, but I don't want to dox myself. That was many years ago, but it wasn't this kind of stuff. I wrote a few short stories in a few little publications many, many years ago, but nothing like this. I haven't written any books in terms of this kind of material, no. George says, I read somewhere in an old text that a man or knight should be a master of the lance and of the pen. Which of these you think is lacking in today's men? The pen, definitely. The pen, definitely. Yeah, hit the like button, guys. Subscribe, hit the bell. David, thank you for the donation. Good to see you drop in as well. Did you guys hear that car? If you didn't, my mic is pretty good. How does my voice sound? How about Stefan Molyneux? Not sure how to spell his name. I think you spelled it exactly right. I've always liked his thinking. Again, I don't have to agree with everything, but I find him very interesting. And on certain subjects, that guy is, like, for me, spot on and very sharp. On some things, it's like, yeah, that's not my thinking. But I can appreciate he has his own. Each person's made up differently. But there's a lot of takeaways from that guy. Especially his lexicon and his intellect and speech. He's a good writer as well. Okay, guys, I think that's about it. If I haven't missed any, let me just quickly skim. I don't want to not answer a super chat. That would be rude. That would be very rude. If I've missed any other questions generally, I haven't done it intentionally. There were a lot of comments, and that's why I say to highlight them so I can actually visually try and pick out the ones that are questions. Often, how are you, man? Anthony, thank you for the super chat. He asked, can you talk about my question before you go, please? I really enjoy the level of conversation. Your question. What's your question, Anthony? Can you repeat your question, Anthony? I can't see it. There's so many comments. Thank you, Shameless, for your donation. Do you still watch the TFM show? Every now and then I'll drop in if I see that the show's on, just to listen. But I haven't for a while now. No, I haven't. Channel 1800 thank you for the donation. Says, go and give your neighbour a strump up. Kidding, brother. Queensland or New South Wales human? Take care. I'm Victoria. Shadow Ghost, thank you for the super chat donation. That's very generous. Thank you, man. He says, was at a bank, 1984, filling out a withdrawal form for $20. It was then I realized that I could not read or write. First red pill. Wow. I'm assuming you're a older guy like me. So, which I wanted Anthony, if you could actually repeat your question. I'll try and find your question down on the. I can't see it, Anthony. Sorry, Anthony, I can't find your question. It's just the mess of comments. You should have asked your question with your super chat. Anyway. Guys, I think we should wrap it up. Is this it? How do you find friends, women of intellect and depth? Well, the people you meet, like I said, with friends, it's kind of, you organically find friends, but it's, if you're having conversations, say for instance you like these kind of conversations, and you find people online, you find that they're your kind of people. Have that as your standard, and then in life, when they don't approach that, then don't try and make them friends or make them meaningful people in your life if you know you're not going to be comfortable in their company. Whereas if you know what kind of people you like hanging out with and what conversations you like having, in real life, I think a lot of people sort of recommend joining groups that that do the things you like to do and how you like to spend your time. You can find similar-minded people. But just generally, if you find the kind of people you enjoy having conversations with and hanging out with, if they're not in people you meet, don't try and force that. Don't try and make and like forge deep friendships. Don't manufacture friendships. Don't manufacture deep friendships, but recognize what they are for you, because you've had them now, online or offline, whatever, and those are your standard. I know sometimes people can get lonely and they'll just take what they can get and try and make anyone into a friend or something meaningful. But as much as you can, your life's gonna be worse and worse over the long term. And when those relationships inevitably end, you'll be left even more empty because you didn't listen to your gut. You just tolerated people just so you wouldn't be lonely. I found it's more of a low-level pain to be temporarily lonely than try and make the wrong people friends or into relationships and protract that out into the long term and live an awful life with these people. All right, guys, let's call it a day. It's we've been going for like 2 hours and nearly 18 minutes. All right, guys, enjoy your day or evening. We'll do it again next week. Don't forget to like, sub, support the channel. I'm really grateful. And I'll see you soon in the next video, guys. Later.